Thank you. So, we've had a really rich day already, lots to learn and absorb, and I'd like to invite you to join me in a moment of meditation and breathing. And I want to set out right away, the challenge is, especially after lunch, that when we meditate, we often just go to sleep. So, we're looking for that middle road between where many of us are a lot of the time, which is a pretty charged up to-do list, moving too quickly state, and a zoned out, sleepy, falling asleep state. So mindfulness is really about finding this middle road of relaxed awareness. So I invite you to find a comfortable position. And if you can, put feet on the floor and have your back be straight. It's really so that you have the maximum capacity to breathe well. So just choosing now to close your eyes or lower your gaze, whichever you prefer. And take a moment to check in with your body. How is your body right now? Yes, I see a couple of you stretching and moving. Please do. Stretch shoulders, necks, whatever feels stiff, whatever needs a little adjusting. And bring your attention to your breath. Take in a full, deep inhalation. And then release it in a full exhalation. And let's do that 3 times. And on each one, I invite you to let go a little more deeply and to actually make a sound as you do so. So breathing in a full breath, and as you breathe out, or whatever your sound is, really let it out. Breathing in. And once more, breathing in. Beautiful. Yes, the sound makes a difference. So continuing to follow the cycle of your breath without any effort. Letting the in-breath flow into your body like a wave rolling up a beach. Noticing the moment where it hesitates and returns back to the ocean as you breathe out. Letting your body breathe itself quite naturally. And to deepen your breathing a little more, if you'd be willing to put a hand on your belly, your abdomen, and see if in this next breath you can breathe all the way down as if you are breathing in your belly. It's like having a little tiny inflatable balloon in your tummy. So as you breathe in, you might feel this very gentle pressure against your hand, and I mean low down on your belly. Some of you are a bit too high. Yeah, there. And as you breathe out, see if you feel that gentle relaxation. Breathing in, I calm my body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Letting a gentle smile come to your lips. Noticing what that is like. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. Thank you. So finding your way to come back into your body and the room, and opening your eyes again if they were closed. Did anyone feel that relaxed awareness? Any hands? Yes? Yes. Oh, beautiful. Goodness. Pros. Lovely. So I'd like to say a word about my own story to start with. Despite the fact that I'm a psychotherapist and a mindfulness teacher, and I've been teaching stress reduction a long time, nothing prepared me for those 3 little words, "You have cancer," 16 years ago. Cody's study wasn't up and going, so I had to make my own way. And I made a lot of discoveries very quickly. One was that being a cancer patient is a major identity shift, especially when you're a health professional. Secondly, that facing your own mortality is a great equalizer, whether you're the oncologist or the gardener. We all experience much the same territory of shock, disbelief, and fear. And for me, there was a lot of humility in this time, because initially I completely forgot my practice. After all those years of training, I began in my early 20s in Japan, training for 3 years in a Zen temple. It all went out the window. And it did come back to me, and that was very powerful. And I noticed how that really radically transformed my experience. And I was so impressed by that I vowed I would create mindfulness programs for people living with serious illness, and I did. That's why I'm here today. So my intention for our time together is that hopefully we'll find some material that will be useful to you personally and professionally. And I'd encourage you to put down your pens as much as possible. If you have to write something, of course, do. But if you can come more into the experience, as we just did. So, the title for today, Finding Peace in Every Moment, the Power of Mindfulness in Relieving Anxiety and Pain. A couple of things. As we all know very well, the theme of this conference is very much looking outside ourselves for relief. And mindfulness is about looking inside ourselves for relief from pain and anxiety. So we're working with the inner world of our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our attitudes. So in this slide, some of you may know Thich Nhat Hanh. He is yes, lots of nods around the room. He is a Vietnamese monk who's been my teacher since the 80s, and he's written many, many books on mindfulness and is a very wonderful being to be around. He's now 90 years old. But he tells us peace is present right here and now, in ourselves and in everything we do and see. Every breath we take, every step we take, can be filled with peace, joy, and serenity. We need only to be awake, alive to the present moment. So I love the idea that peace is always present and available. It's a question of how do we access that peace. So I'd love to share with you my definition of mindfulness. There are many, of course. Mindfulness is a way of deepening awareness through paying attention with curiosity and kindness. And those 2 words are really important. This isn't a kind of razor-sharp scrutinizing attention. It's curious and it's kind, in a non-judgmental way to whatever arises in the present moment. It's waking up to the preciousness of each moment, the only moment we're actually alive. I'd love to share with you the story of Sandra, who is a lady who's a university professor, and she came to the 5-day Awaken Alive Mindful Living with Cancer retreat, and there's a couple of people here who've actually attended that retreat. This is a program I put together 6 years ago based on my own experience and not being able to find the resources I wanted. So that's what this retreat has become. So she came, she was very skeptical about mindfulness, couldn't figure out why we had to have 5 days. 1 day wasn't enough. And at the end of the first day, she said, you know, I'm breathing a little better. And she came having enormous difficulty breathing and a lot of difficulty walking and moving around. So on the end of the second day, she said the same, and the third, and the fourth. Until at the end of the 5th day, the final day, she said, I can't believe how much more easily I can breathe. I feel far more relaxed, and I'm able to walk further than I have for a year. How did Sandra discover how to breathe more easily? How did she learn to relax more deeply? I'd like to invite you to stand up. And as you do so, take an opportunity to stretch your body. And then to put out, as you're ready, lots of stretching. Great. One of my favorite friends and teachers is in a wheelchair, where she's been for 30 years, and she has a timer, and every 20 minutes it's get up, move, stretch, and sit down. It's a good one to follow. So if you would put out your left arm and make a tight fist, really clench that fist tightly. Now close your eyes and pay attention to your breathing. Let yourself breathe as we just did before, slowly, evenly, gently. Notice what is happening. Were you holding your breath when you clenched your fist? Is your soft breathing helping to loosen that grip? Just notice, what does your fist want to do as you breathe deeply in a relaxed, gentle way? And I'm seeing several fists are opening. So let the fist open. So please have a seat again. So the point of this little exercise is to underline how much unconsciously we are contracting and holding tension in our bodies and also in our minds. So when we train in mindfulness, one of the first things we're looking to learn is how to scan the body and notice the contracting that's going on. And when we notice it, come back to the breath and let the breath help us relax. So, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do the rest of them. Please forgive me. I think you got it, but I forgot to forward it, excuse me. So, these 3 words are the basis of mindful breathing. The stop, the breathe, the let go. And we have a wonderful practice of the mindful pause. And this is something I'd really encourage you to take home with you. The simplest mindfulness pause is noticing perhaps a tension in your body, perhaps an escalating argument that's going on, or perhaps nothing at all, just a moment to come back to yourself. So I do retreats at Plum Village, that some of you may know, a meditation center in France. And there are many bells, and chimes on all the clocks. So wherever you are, at intervals, these bells and clocks chime, and the whole community stops what they're doing and takes 3 deep breaths together. So let's just do that. There's the bell, and whatever you're doing, you may be stirring a pot or digging in the garden. Just imagine yourself pausing, turning inwards, taking 3 deep releasing breaths. And then resuming what you were doing and noticing if that brings some kind of rejuvenation, refreshing energy, as it does for many of us. The more you practice this, the deeper it gets. And if you have a few more minutes, it's helpful to add to that simple mindfulness pause a little bit more. And let's do this one together. So again, finding that comfortable position, whatever works for you. Taking that deep breath, turning inwards, eyes closed or lowered. And you take full, deep breaths, exhaling fully each time. Deep belly breaths. And now on this next breath, check in with your body. Scan your body from your toes to the crown of your head. Noticing, listening to your body. What does it have to tell you in this moment? Are you tired? Do you have a headache? Is your neck stiff? Noticing the state of your body right now and listening to what it's communicating to you. And now checking in with your feelings. What am I feeling right now? Notice it and name it without any judgment. Sad, bored, angry, frustrated, afraid, envious. Many, many, many feelings. What is true for you right now? In this moment, I am feeling, and you let yourself know that. And now check in with your mind. What's on your mind in this moment? What kind of thoughts are going through your mind? Are you planning tonight's dinner? Are you remembering what you're going to be doing this weekend, or the phone call you need to make? Notice what thoughts are present and let yourself be aware of that. And lastly, check in with your heart. And if you'd be willing to put a hand on your heart, feel the warmth of your hand connecting with your heart. And check in, how is my heart right now? Do I feel cold, shut down, defensive? Do I feel open, relaxed, kind, generous? Whatever the quality of heart is that you notice, just be aware of it without any judgment. And taking one more breath, coming back into the room. And notice that in that short meditation, we checked in with body, emotions, thoughts, and heart. This is a complete check-in. And what's powerful about this is the last piece that it invites you to do is take action based on what you discover. So this might be if I notice I'm angry and tired, this isn't the right time to pick that fight with my partner, or have that difficult discussion about finances, or call my boss. It might not be. On the other hand, it might be the perfect moment. I feel relaxed, I feel at ease, I feel comfortable in myself. I'm going to see if that person's available. I'm going to have that difficult discussion. So this becomes a habit to take that pause, check in, and then choose the next action. It's also really, really helpful in stressful moments, like doctors' waiting rooms and in hard meetings with a boss or colleagues. When you find yourself in a situation like that, do try, whenever you can, to step out and take a pause. Leave the room, if that's appropriate. Leave the office, step outside, see the sky, breathe, check in with yourself, and then come back. And if nothing else, you can always go to the bathroom. It's the one place no one will question you. So I'd like to invite you now to just share with a friend, share with someone at your table. 3 things. What was your experience of doing that brief mindful pause? How might you be able to use that in your life, and where and when? So just turn to one another, just take a minute or so each. So, did anyone find that helpful, the mindful pause? Yes? Yes, good. I'm really glad. It's a fundamental practice that really works. Just make it a habit. And what I'd love to say about this is don't be deceived by the simplicity of some of these mindfulness practices, because actually their cumulative effects are how we reduce stress and improve our health. And very often, especially if you're sharing this with someone else, remember, it doesn't look like much, right? To just stop, pause, breathe, check in, continue. It doesn't sound like much, but it makes such a difference in our lives. So that, and then there's a lot of research I think most of you are familiar with in this room, so I won't bore you with that. But just to say that there's some very fascinating cutting-edge research on telomeres. Do people know about telomeres? Hands? Oh, lots of you. Okay. For anyone that doesn't, basically, this is exciting research because we take the mind-body connection to a new level when we can actually find something measurable. And this is the, right, this is, the telomeres are described as like a microscopic plastic tip on the chromosome, and their length is an indicator of health and longevity. So about 5 years ago, a study came out that said people who had a cancer diagnosis had shorter telomeres, which looked pretty bleak for us. So the recent research is a lot more optimistic. There's a book called The Telomere Effect by Elizabeth Blackburn, who won a Nobel Prize for this research. And she says, while chronic stress, negative thinking, strained relationships, and even wrong neighborhoods can shorten the telomeres, we can maintain the length of them, and we can even lengthen them. The question is, how? And the fact that these telomeres are malleable and they are actually influenced by how we live, how we think, how we work with our emotions is very exciting. So to keep that in mind. And just a couple of quick nuggets from neuroscience, which you probably are also familiar with, but just to underline the negativity bias of the brain. Familiar with that too? Okay. Preaching to the crowd. So what I want to say about that, that's important from a mindfulness point of view, is you're probably familiar with that phrase with Velcro for pain and Teflon for pleasure. We actually have fewer circuits, brain circuits, established to register pleasure and happiness. And one of the neuroscientists, I think it's Rick Hansen, said that actually pleasurable experiences just run through us like water through a sieve. This is really important. So one aspect of mindfulness I think is underused is notice, not only when we're anxious and afraid and sad. Notice when we're happy. Notice that wonderful smile over there. Notice that beautiful blue back there. Take it in. All around us, every moment, is this potential for pleasure that we are not scanning for. We're looking for what's going to go wrong. So just to quickly underline that one. And that mindfulness is really about establishing new neural pathways, or, as we might say, habits. So in mindfulness practice, we realize that we often have very many habits that don't support our health and well-being, and so we're learning to establish new habits. There's a man who also came to the cancer retreat, Alan, some years ago. And he had had a truly traumatic cancer treatment where he was forced to remain in bed and sitting upright for 6 months. He couldn't lie down, and this was obviously very, very hard. So the first night of the retreat, we always invite people to tell their stories, and he told this story. But as the days passed, he kept repeating the story, word for word. And after a few days, I found the right window of opportunity and very gently said, Alan, how do you feel when you're repeating that story? And it was the beginning of a big shift. It was an aha moment for him of recognizing that he'd got into this habit of telling it, and that every time he told this story, he was re-traumatizing himself and taking himself back to the past instead of inviting himself to be present in the here and now. So it was a painful lesson, but I'm glad to say he got it. So this first image here, I'm calling primary pain. And this refers to the hard things that happen to us all in life. This is the loss of a loved one, a difficult diagnosis, financial crisis, marital crisis, care of an aging parent with dementia, or a child with special needs, things that just happen to us in our lives. The second one, secondary suffering, is what Alan's story just illustrated, how we can unconsciously make it worse, how we can unconsciously perpetuate that pain. And of course, none of us want to do this consciously, and yet we often do. So the saying that some of you may know, pain is inevitable, suffering is not. So suffering is optional. So in this next slide, the waves represent life, what's coming at us every moment. Sometimes glorious, sometimes very challenging. You can't stop the waves, but does anyone know the rest of it? You can learn how to surf. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. So, I'd like to look now, briefly, at 3 mental habits that are very, very common for all of us, that increase our stress and suffering, and look at how we can transform them. So one of them is the wandering mind. Check it out. I've been speaking for, let's see, about 30 minutes. Where has your mind been? Where has it traveled to? I'm sure it wasn't entirely focused on what I'm saying. So just reflect for a second. Where did you go? So, yes? Quite an amusing discovery over there. So there was a study out of Harvard in 2011 that measured where people's minds were at random times of the day. And they discovered that almost 50% of the time our minds were wandering, and that the wandering mind is actually equated with an unhappy mind. And that was the title of the study. A wandering mind is an unhappy mind. 47% of the time our minds are wandering. You know, think about it. You know, for me, I had a conversation with my boss yesterday. Oh, and then there's that shopping list. What is it I forgot? There's something that goes on. Then the dinner reservation I need to make. Oh, and my best friend's birthday. I better remember that. And, oh, that lady that back there reminds me of my best friend. I wonder how she's doing. You know, I better check up on her. And somehow I can go from all of that to, and I must call the plumber. Familiar? Right. It's what we all do all the time. So the gift of mindfulness is to wake us up. Remember that last line of Thich Nhat Hanh's poem about peace was to wake up to our aliveness in the moment. So the second habit is also very familiar. When we look at where does our mind wander to, it's usually to the past or to the future. So for those of you who are familiar with Charles Dickens, I grew up in Kent, where Charles Dickens is from, and one of his books, Great Expectations, had this wonderful character, Miss Havisham. Anyone familiar? Oh, good. I'm so glad. I thought it was maybe too British. Good. So Miss Havisham was, in Dickens' mind, this woman who was jilted on her wedding day. And she continued from there on through the rest of her life to wear her tattered old wedding dress. And she literally stopped the clocks in her house at this time that she discovered this betrayal. And she left the wedding banquet out for the rats and the cobwebs. Yes. So I like to remind myself of Miss Havisham when I'm living in the past too much. It works. It's pretty dramatic. So, and equally, when we're living in the future, you know, this is, when you think about it, this is the source of anxiety and fear. You know, when we are fast forwarding, and that little 2-3 words of the if only mind, if only this, if only that, and into the future of what if? What if this doesn't go well? What if I lose all my money, you know, on that credit union or whatever it might be? You know, what if, you know, I suddenly became ill and I can't finish till retirement, or many, many different things. So in this slide, it's my dramatization of your world becomes smaller, your world shrinks living in the past. Think Miss Havisham. And equally, living in the future, where all our uncertainty, fears, and anxiety lie. You know, people who come to the cancer retreats primarily come because they will say, my anxiety, my fear and uncertainty about the future. I can deal with where I am now, but what happens next? So, and then equally, when we look at living in the present, our world expands. And then there's this, to really come back to this sense of actually we're only alive right here and now. We're not alive in the past or the future. Only this breath, this moment. And when we have even glimpses of being in that present mind, the world becomes full of all kinds of experiences, We can only love, we can only be creative, we can only connect, we can only be spontaneous, etc. in the present moment. So now I want to go to what do we do about the wandering mind and the living in the past and the future? And you all actually know the answer to that already. The mindful pause, coming back into the present, breathing, coming back to your body, returning to the present moment. So when your mind is wandering, bringing it back home. When you notice, oh, I'm out there in my past, or I'm in fast forward into the future, coming back into the present. And I love this sense of coming home to myself. The third one I want to speak about is resistance. And this is a difficult slide to show you. This is me at my first chemo infusion 16 years ago. And you can see that there's a lot of apprehension here. So we might call this anticipatory pain, because nothing has happened yet. But I'd never had an IV before, and I was expecting the worst, and guess what? So, very familiar, what we expect, and then this phrase around suffering, that suffering equals pain multiplied by our resistance. So I had 26 weeks of chemo every week. And I got to learn, I mean, these were hard. They were in my hand initially, and then my wrist. So they were painful. So, so many nurses are looking very empathetic. Thank you. But they weren't as bad as this. So that one was really extreme. So how do we transform this resistance? Because it's familiar to us all. This is one of my favorite poems called Allow. And if you've been to any program with me, you know this poem. So these are just a few lines from it. Resist and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow and grace will carry you to higher ground. This is by a poet called Danna Faulds. And I really love this poem very much. And just this reminder that we all want to avoid pain, but paradoxically, letting it in actually brings us relief. So instead of fighting and resisting it, could we turn towards and accept it? And this turning towards may feel counterintuitive, but actually, let's experience it for a moment, and you can tell me what you think. So again, if you would like to stand up for a second, and I'm still here. So I'd love you, and by all means stretch while you're here. Can you hear me? And then to put both arms out in front of you like this, and imagine there is a wall here. And this wall represents everything you do not like, everything you do not want in your life. Difficult relationships, the political scene, the climate, your marriage, anything. Whatever it is, just really feel that sense of bracing against it. I don't want it, I don't like it, I wish it would go away and be different, right? Come back to your breathing. Close your eyes, breathe fully and gently. Notice what happens. Notice that when we brace against, we tend to hold our breath. When we come back to our breathing, there's a softening. And let your arms come inwards. And imagine you're embracing a beloved in front of you. Or if you want to go further, embrace yourself in a warm hug. So I like to remember this one. And it's really good to get it in your body. And in moments where we're pushing against and resisting, just doing this, let's just do it one more time, just pushing it all away. I don't want it, I hate it, get it out of my life, into breathing, softening, embracing. It is this way. I may not like it, I may not want it, but it is this way. So, thank you. Please have a seat. Oh, really? Oh, good. Thank you. I like that one, too. And don't just remember the concept, but remember it in your body. Doing it's much more powerful. So I want to share with you a story that is the best illustration I've ever come across of what I consider the heart of mindfulness. Can you hear if I move that a bit? Is that okay? So this is about a man called Jacob. And he was a clinical psychologist, and he had about middle stage Alzheimer's. And he reported this story, that he was invited to give a talk at a local college. And he got out on stage, very much as I am now, and he blanked out completely. He could not remember why he'd been invited to speak, what he was supposed to speak about. And so he looked from face to face, looking for clues. Nothing came. And you remember how I invited you to name your experiences earlier? That's exactly what he did. He started to name what he was experiencing in the moment. And he put his hands together like this, and he bowed. So he started with blank. Looking around again, afraid. Still no idea what to say. Panic. And he continued naming his experiences as they came up. And he got to sad, ashamed. And he apologized and started to walk off the stage. And apparently one of the students stood up and said, he had tears pouring down his face, as I always get choked up telling this. I never met Jacob, but the story still moves me. And he said, thank you, sir. That was the most wonderful teaching I ever had. So, great humility in that story, but really, that's the heart of it. If we can name what is happening and find our way to being with it, without resisting, pushing away, wandering away in many, many ways that we distract ourselves, just staying present. It's very powerful. So we have a little bit of time left. I want to just come to, we've looked at mental habits, but I just want to touch in a little bit with bodies, because this is a really important part of mindfulness. And in the breakout this afternoon, we'll do a little bit more with this. But let's take a look at some of the ways we increase suffering in our bodies. It's very similar to the ways we've just been looking at. But I was actually interested in this quote. There's a study actually out of UW, Kaiser Permanente, looking at mindfulness-based stress reduction and cognitive therapy for pain. And the Dr. Churkin apparently said, mindfulness practices teach patients to relax and to become non-reactive to pain, not allowing it to become the focus of their lives. So again, that non-reactivity, that being with, allowing energy. I'd like to ask, how many people in the room are living with chronic pain right now? Oh, quite a lot. Okay. And how many have loved ones with chronic pain? Also a lot. And how many of you work with people in chronic pain? Okay, many. Many, many. So some of the principles of mindfulness and working with pain, one of them is that as Westerners particularly, we have a very established habit of the mind-body disconnect. We are not very embodied people. We have to relearn this. And when we watch a child play, we see it, and we see how mental we have become. And living in our minds is wonderful, but it's incomplete and one-sided. So one of the issues is to remember this disconnect, and that mindfulness is helping us gently connect with our bodies with that curious, kind attention that we talked about in the beginning. Not that scrutinizing kind of attention, but kind, curious. How is this? Let me explore it more. So I'd like to lead a brief meditation, and it will be quite brief, but I just want to show you some of the principles. So once again, a last brief meditation. If you would come back into whatever that position is that supports you, and turn your attention inwards, letting your eyes close, your gaze lower. Taking a full, deep breath in, and exhaling fully. And continuing to breathe gently, with no effort, rhythmically, in your own time. Perhaps letting your belly rise and fall a little with each in-breath and out-breath. On the exhale, releasing tension, letting go. If you like making sound on the releasing. Big sigh. And be aware of your thoughts coming and going. And just let them pass on through your mind. No big deal. But don't get tangled up in them. Just let them come and go, observing this mental activity of the mind. Notice emotions coming up also, and without feeding them any energy, let them pass on through. Noting what you're feeling, and just releasing it, letting it go. And now bring your attention to your body. Scan your body from your toes to the top of your head. And notice any areas of pain or discomfort. And touch in with them very gently, very tenderly, continuing to breathe naturally, slowly. And very tenderly, look a little more deeply. Bring curiosity to these unpleasant sensations. Notice the tendency to tense up and resist, and invite it to relax and soften. Just being with your body, being with difficult or unpleasant sensations, and naming them. What are they actually like? Is there sharpness? Is there aching, nagging, tingling? And you might notice the sensation of pain or discomfort is constantly changing. Stay with that for a moment and see what you discover. And now on this next breath, turn your attention to pleasant sensations in your body. Perhaps it's more difficult to find them. You might notice the temperature is just right, not too hot, not too cold. Perhaps there is a pleasant sensation of a soft material against your skin. Perhaps you notice the muscles of your face feel softer and more relaxed. Whatever it is, let yourself be aware of pleasant sensation. Now coming back to your breath again, take a moment to reflect on the fact that life always includes pleasant and unpleasant experiences. And see if you can drop down below pleasant and unpleasant. Relaxing into a sense of big sky mind, limitless, stretching in all directions. Placing your hand on your heart again, if you wish, inviting yourself to feel kindness, tenderness towards yourself. Awakening compassion for yourself. Accepting yourself and your experience just the way it is right now. Relaxing into a more spacious awareness. Can I say yes to my life just the way it is right now? Feeling this warmth and tenderness in your heart, imagining it as light rays, spreading it out to everyone here in this room, touching every heart. And send it further, everyone on this campus, to our loved ones, to this community, further and further, like pebbles dropped in a pond. Let the ripples flow out as you send this energy of compassion, acceptance, kindness out into the world. "10,000 flowers in spring, the moon in autumn, a cool breeze in summer, snow in winter. If your mind isn't clouded by unnecessary things, this is the best season of your life." Now, taking your time to move and stretch, to come back into the room. This is a practice that I will work with in the breakout session, but for those of you who won't be joining me, just to note, this is the work of Kristin Neff, and the self-compassion program. Very, very important, gaining huge momentum right now. There's an 8-week class. People are being trained to lead this. It's a big discovery how much we all need self-compassion. So in the breakout, we'll work with this, and I'll invite you to write your own self-compassion mantra. And if you only remember one thing from today, let it be the mindful pause. And hopefully you'll remember more. And this is, if you want to reach me, this is how you would do it. And I'm next Saturday at Swedish Survivorship Day giving a talk. And then I'm in London with 2 events back home. And then some of you are interested in, I started doing an online course, Mindfulness for Cancer. And we've done one, and we will be offering others. So if you're interested in that for yourself or those you work with, this is how you reach me. If you get on my mailing list or drop me an email, then I can tell you more about that. So, regretfully, I think it is time to close.
Thank you so much.